Okay, it looks like we're here. It looks like we exist. Again, it turns out last time wasn't a fluke. Yes, this is good. I'm sitting between two people. Let's find out who they are. Well, obviously you remember Connor from last time. He did interviews and stuff. That was great.
I'm sure you noticed, we're in a different room than we were last time. The more eagle-eyed among you may have noticed we don't have our normal black backdrop or little clip-on microphones. Something, the room that we usually record in is not available to book after 5 PM?
Something like that. In the spirit of making sure you actually know who people are, because, otherwise we'd be sitting here just talking to them for ages. Will, hello.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here. This is my first podcast type experience, and I can't wait to have that crushed brutally.
Yeah. I was going to say, why are you excited? It's us.
Okay, let's not crush his expectations quite hard that fast.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, this is like being told Santa wasn't real. But they were lying, weren't they?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely wonderful.
Good.
In any case, it's going to be one of those days.
Yeah.
Right, we're fine. Only slightly sleep deprived, so we're doing good. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the last podcast. We had fun making it, especially that bit where we got chased out the building by knife-wielding security. You know how it is. Trying to think where to start now.
Well, this week, last week our theme was, GMs and how to start, running your game and that sort of thing. This week we're going to be talking about players and specifically player interactions and espionage and secrets and plot hooks and other associated shenanigans.
And the ability to hand the GM bits of paper and have people go, wait, what does that say?
Yeah, there are various games where that is more important than others, and certain systems that are more important. But in general, the ability to pass a piece of paper to a GM, have them sort of nod, roll a couple of dice, is one of the most powerful feelings in the world.
Especially if the piece of paper says, can you just roll 2d6 and give me this back? I've never done that. No. So what sort of games would you think that sort of methodology, that sort of technique is useful for? Because I can't imagine it's useful in every game.
No. I certainly think the ones that have got a more dark setting, where the players don't necessarily trust each other or may come into contradiction with each other. For example, just my start in role-playing. I started off with AD&D way back when I was about 10, but then I got back into it through games like Dark Heresy, Rogue Trader, and Deathwatch, which in the 40k universe is a much darker setting. Not everyone necessarily trusts each other, which means you may have certain character secrets, such as is a innate psyker but isn't particularly strong with it, but wants to try and develop that aspect of their character, or is untouchable, or is secretly working for a third party. All that plays into the sort of paranoia that plays into those games, and the ability to work with your GM about it is paramount to getting that feeling across. Especially
because am I right in thinking that part of the joy of it is having other players know that something is happening but not working out precisely what it is until maybe the moment where you put the knife in.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily malignantly going against the rest of the party actively. For example, don't go around stabbing other PCs, they'll get upset.
Unless it's the sort of game where that's generally the point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing Paranoia, then then you get that knife-wielding Hoover in there, but if you're not...
There's been sort of tangential plans to play Paranoia for a while in one of my regular RP groups, and I have been scheming and plotting for a while about I'm going to become the group sanitation officer, all right? And one of my little aspects or whatever is going to be I know that one call code for that faulty washbot that's the spin cycle on a little bit too high. I'm going to use that washbot to kill the other players before they kill me.
I mean, I did have an idea. The next 24-hour thing, I was going to run Paranoia at 3 in the morning just to see what would happen.
Death and destruction and chaos, especially if you run it with freshers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan.
The thing is, we're sort of drawing a distinction between games where the sort of the inter-party sniping is a thing that can happen, and a game like Paranoia where the only people who aren't expecting it are people who've never played before.
Yeah.
So... I mean, that's the thing. In Paranoia, my understanding is that it's fairly common to have, just after the briefing, you go into an elevator or a train or something like that and the lights go out, and that's when you start handing bits of paper to the GM saying, I'm going to hit the deck, I'm going to shoot that guy, I'm going to activate my mutant power that I'm not supposed to have. Whereas, for me, I think the thing that I really want to sort of touch on more is trying to sort of balance the idea of having player secrets that don't entirely skew the game towards you, which is, for me, feels like a risk. It feels like... Because I know, I'm pretty certain that most RPG players, at one point or another, have had that bit where they want all the story to be about them. And secrets seem like a good way to do that.
Yeah, and especially if it's in the background as being a secret, then it's not leading the forefront of the plot. You feel less dirty doing it. The plot's still going on. In fact, the plot requires to go on without you being the centre of attention. Even if, certainly in your own story with the secret, you are becoming the centre of attention for a different aspect.
Okay. That makes sense, I suppose.
A good example of this was a thing one of my Deathwatch GMs did. Deathwatch is the game where you play a certain amount, you play a certain cadre of alien hunters among the Adeptus Astartes. But this is still made up of different chapters, which means we all got our secret chapter missions for our time on the Watch Fortress. We had to find X relic, we had to support X brother in whatever they were doing, or sometimes it was you've got no specific mission, just look good in front of the Inquisition. And certain of them were particularly malignant towards each other. For example, they certainly came to a mission that was currently classified, but various Watchmasters could access it. The Space Wolf and the Dark Angel player had to skew it so their chapter came out of it best. This meant making friends among the Imagists and all the people who were handling the data, and in some instances persuading the party's Techmarine to work with them for it.
Okay, and because that brought them. I mean, obviously, if you don't know about 40k universe, the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves have had this sort of mutual simmering hatred thing for a very long time. So the fact that the two characters in that were actually at, even if they didn't directly know it, at loggerheads with each other, kind of makes a thematic sense.
Yeah.
And how did that play out? Did they actually come to blows in the end, or was it not like in person but in character?
Not obviously not in person. Eventually, because the Space Wolf wasn't playing at someone as politically gifted, it did end up going against the Space Wolves chapter. But in the end, it was judged by the person he reported to from a very good RP report to, I think it was one of the Wolf Lords, that there was genuinely nothing he could have done, and that it was honourable to have let the truth come out.
Okay.
Even because he didn't know the truth ultimately, because he hadn't got that far into it. He was more focusing on his duties. The Dark Angel was being he was being very political, and to the point it was making my eyes water. But he essentially flipped the entire situation on its head, made the Dark Angels come out of it sparkling, and essentially manoeuvred the Space Wolf to be, it's honourable that the truth must come out. Okay.
So, actually, that almost sounds like the Dark Angel then did the Space Wolf a favour by giving him a little bit of reflected glory, almost. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. It was a great moment, and I advocate everyone play Deathwatch. It's brilliant.
See, I was going to go off into a tangent about Deathwatch there, but we'll have to do that some other time, I think. I don't really want to sort of get into, so what makes Deathwatch good? Because that isn't really what we're
I'm sitting here like, yes, Space Wolf, Dark Angel, Heresy, Imperium. I know nothing about 40k at all, very little.
To be fair, you know enough just from that small bit of sentence there. That's all you need to know, is that any knowledge is probably heresy. Knowing that these things exist is fine. So yeah, that feels like a thing.
The question is, what about other games where there's a much greater emphasis on a much greater enemy than there is in Death? Because Deathwatch, quite a lot of the time, it's a bit of a power trip. But what about something like in Call of Cthulhu, where you are fighting this massive, nameless horror? Can you really afford to have secrets in that party?
Oh boy, I have a story about Call of Cthulhu.
What is your story about Call of Cthulhu?
I have played in one session of Call of Cthulhu. It was run by a friend of mine. It was run over Roll20 and Discord. It was run by a friend of mine in Sweden, and he made the mistake of trying to run a sort of like pre-written campaign module with just, you have complete freedom, write your own characters, whatever the hell you like. That went well. Our party ended up consisting of a struggling artist, son of immigrants, a college student who was really good at track, a traffic cop, and a lovely, nice married woman, settled down with a dog, plays tennis on the weekends, former Black Ops operative.
Of course.
Yeah. And that was me, and I assume the others also had deep, dark secrets, because they were all giggling to themselves during character creation, like, this is going to be good. You know that thing that players do?
Yeah.
So I assume we all had these horrible secrets. Not that we'd know, because we all killed each other in the first session.
Oh, joy!
The GM got annoyed by us. Like, we'd formed our own little, like, sort of investigative group. We'd all had like a relative or a close friend like lost to this cult. So we all came together to investigate this weird cult. And we found what we thought might be their headquarters, which was this old house that used to be used as the hideout for a murderer. So we went in there tooled up to the nines, because of course we did. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And the GM was annoyed by that, because he didn't want us to have weapons at this point, especially not the weapons that I brought to the table as a former Black Ops operative. So he ended up having some interdimensional horror come down. I got possessed, and I killed the track star and pushed the artist kid out of a window. The traffic cop ended up fleeing. Turns out that half the police force was a member of this cult, and he ended up eating his own shotgun at the end of the first session. So
the player's secrets never really came into it because everybody died?
Oh, no, the player secrets were sort of like rumbling under there. Like, my player secret was the reason that I
came tooled up to the nines.
Yeah, came tooled up to the nines. The cop ended up basically killing himself with a secret that player still won't tell me. A mysterious group of people came and picked the dead body of the artist kid up from the streets and disappeared with it. We weren't really sure what happened with him. And from what the GM told us after he'd calmed down from us ruining his carefully constructed plans, the guy who was playing the track star sort of told us his big long secret backstory, which I can't remember, but it did tie in somehow to the house with the murderer living in it. And
so I think what we can glean from that is that if you do have this big clever secret, don't get too attached to it. Don't throw your entire character's identity into it, because
and definitely discuss
just
them with your GM first, because otherwise you end up with that.
Actually, here's a question. How much of that was because people went with torturous, complicated backstories, and how much of it was just Call of Cthulhu?
50-50.
Okay.
But again, I do agree with you.
It's reason why, if you have these deep secrets, you need to properly discuss them with your GM and how they're going to tie into the game and what impact they're going to have on the game world, because otherwise you'll end up going into a low-level combat encounter.
Do you think the sort of player espionage element, the sort of passing notes, is better or worse on Roll20 rather than in person?
I think it's worse.
Yeah, I think it's
you
worse.
can't. You can just type out the secret message to the GM, but no one else knows you're doing it, which means it's more authentic, but you can't see that look of everybody shitting themselves as you pass a piece of paper.
But that's the thing, though. For me, it's one of the things I like about the player espionage part of it is the fact that the other players aren't necessarily clued into what you are saying, but they know, they have a way of knowing that something is happening. Right. So if one player starts communicating feverishly with the GM, and then they suddenly launch a coup and kill everyone.
Yeah.
If you're doing that over Roll20, what the players see is nothing, bam, we're all dead. Whereas if the thing is, you can't simulate everything in a role-playing game. For instance, if someone was going to do the whole, like, I'm being shifty, I'm being totally shifty, let me poison this water, hey guys, drinks! If you can't simulate the sort of the little ticks in the face that would be the potential giveaway that something was wrong, or the language usage or anything like that. So the only way you can really simulate that is by letting people see that you're handing the GM a shitload of notes.
All right. And it does sort of give the player some sort of warning that something is happening, so it's not going to feel like they've just been shafted.
Whereas on Roll20 and like I use Discord to talk to people, but like on the Roll20 campaigns, all you really get is if the players are talking and then you've got one player and the GM furiously typing at each other, the GM's not going to be 100% listening to what's going on, because the players don't know that the secret's happening over here. So as the GM, you're just sitting there like, yep. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, can you just repeat that? So you're not really focusing on either thing 100%. Whereas with the passing notes, the players can see that you've got something else in front of you, and you're paying attention to that. Yeah. But the other thing, the thing that you can do to sort of like make it like try and simulate that was completely unexpected, is just do the passing notes and secret conversations with everybody, even if there's nothing happening.
Yeah, I think that takes a certain amount of trust in your party not to then screw it if they don't think...
Yeah, but then again, you kind of have to have that trust anyway. I mean, we have to trust players to... if you're going to make a broken character, try and balance that out somehow. Like the fact that there's a guy I know called Dave, who... Dave. He makes Dave. broken characters.
Is that broken mechanically or...
Yes.
Okay.
He makes mechanically broken characters, but... he never exploits that to dominate the game. He'll be part of it.
Yeah.
And of course, if we need something, if they're like, oh my god, something horrible just turned up. Dave. Ugh, and it's dead. Whew. But it doesn't it's not like, okay, off you go. I guess we'll just sit here doing nothing. You know, there is actually a point to having the other characters, and that's something we have to trust players on. We have to trust players that they'll buy into the game that you're trying to run. That you're trying like, I'm running light-hearted fantasy. Why are you murdering those orphans?
Yeah.
Like, can you please stop murdering the orphans?
No, seriously, cameraman, stop murdering the orphans!
God damn it, Richard!
But that's the thing, because we trust the players to do all of that, I don't think it's that much of a stretch to trust players not to... I'm sorry, am I trying to keep things going?
No, I'm laughing at Richard. Carry on. Stop it.
You are not helping.
We're a professional podcast, I swear.
But
Anyway.
I think there's a difference between sort of trusting them to run light-hearted fantasy and sort of act in a certain way. However, if it's plotting, and if it's specifically plotting against them, they may feel more compelled to mess with it on a more metagamey level.
Yes, but again, that's why again it's important to have. If you're going to do secrets to everyone. That way, one player doesn't feel picked on. Okay. So not all players do. I mean, like the game that comes to mind is a game I played called Mountain Witch, which doesn't actually have a GMSA, but the idea is that everyone has a dark secret of some kind that you have to slowly reveal to people as you go up the mountain. And if you haven't got a creative mindset, if you haven't got a sort of a story narrative-driven mindset, you'll find it very difficult to do, as one player did. And he basically revealed his secret by going, "Hey, I hate you," at the end. And it wasn't great, but it was the sort of thing because it wasn't that he didn't try to buy into it, he just couldn't think of anything. And so, there was an attempt made, but it kind of didn't work. So you have to also be able to account for that, because some players just don't do secrets. But that has to be the option, I guess.
I ran at the Non-Stock Tasters. I ran a game in the Fallout setting where all eight.
Is this with Sir Swatzalot that I suggested
yes,
a while ago?
yeah, it's the same setting with Sir Swatzalot, who, for reference, is a knight on horseback in full plate mail with a baseball bat that knocks grenades towards his enemies. He has appeared as well. He's chasing some raiders through a field, and the party just watched him go and were like, "What? What?" Okay, moving on. But it's in that setting, so it's your typical Fallout ridiculousness. And I had eight players who were all members of a resistance faction, and turns out none of them were. Not a single one of them was an actual member of the resistance. Every single one of them was a plant from a different organisation who were all working opposite.
They were all plants.
Not plants.
They were all spies for someone else.
Plants.
I'm sorry.
They were spies for other organisations, and some of them had objectives in common, some of them had goals in common, some of them had enemies in common, but some of them were deliberately working against other people in the group.
Was it planned for them to be all plants?
Yes, it was planned and deliberate.
This is because it was a one-off. These are all pre-gens.
I pre-genned all the characters, I pre-genned all their secrets, and this was a complete accident. But the best driver that the party had ended up disappearing off for reasons of their own secrets. So they put the second best driver in charge of this massive, armoured vehicle that they had, to ram into the armoury at the end. Their second best driver was the one person who didn't want them anywhere near that armoury. And I've been doing the passing notes and the taking people off for secret conversations all session, and this one player had stayed put this whole time. They hadn't got up for a secret conversation once. They hadn't been handed a secret note or anything. They hadn't handed me any notes. They'd just been sitting there quietly and playing along with the rest of the group. And part of their plan, they've got this guy in the middle of the street with a massive RPG bazooka type thing. He fires on the gates of the armoury. That was the signal for the armoured vehicle to come driving around the corner and into the gates. The guy playing the driver goes, "Okay, I put the vehicle into gear, slam my foot on the accelerator, rolls, and I don't turn the corner." And everyone around the table just going, "What? Where are you going instead? What are you doing? Rolls again. I drive into Myers. Hits this guy in the middle of the road with a bazooka at 60. And
there's no longer a man with a bazooka there.
The looks of shock on everybody's face were like, "But you haven't done anything secret." "What? You've not been doing anything shifty. We thought you were the good guy." And he's like, "Yep, I know you did."
Good man himself.
However, that's really interesting, because at that point, the player becomes unique and potentially suspicious because they're not doing anything. Everyone else is doing secret stuff.
Because it does seem
Why are you not?
Because it does seem like the obvious thing to do is you say, as a GM, everyone's got a secret. Then you don't give one person a secret.
Well, what I did was I told them at the beginning. I told them sort of like 45 minutes in that one of the people in this group is a spy, which was true. It just so happened the other 7 were as well.
But it's that sort of like, I just thought we should talk. I think one of the others is dodgy. Ugh. I hope it's not you.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, I'll tell you if it was me.
And
there
that
you go.
conversation happened with all of them. Like, they're all turning their pockets out. And because they're all spies, every single one of them is carrying something shady, apart from this one player who is only carrying weapons and a small hand crank radio to communicate with their boss. And that made them unique, because they were the only of these 8, like, the 7 of them were working for outside forces, and this one was working for the people the Resistance were fighting against. They were the only one not carrying anything shifty, not doing anything suspicious, and they were the first person to start the PvP fighting each other. They kicked it off. Like the guy that just got hit by the truck, he got picked back up. Like he got stuck with some meds, he got picked back up, half hit points, he's fine. So we're like, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, cool.
Just got hit by a truck at 60, I'll be fine.
Got into the armory. They went, okay, you're trained to use this power armor, right? He's like, yeah, I'm trained to use the power armor. Right, you get in the power armor, you're wounded, you know how to use it, that'll be fine. You get in there.
No, I thought I was going to sneeze.
Okay. You get in there, you'll be protected, you're the best with the big heavy guns, you get in there.
I was.
Excellent. So they're all, all of them are loading this armoured vehicle up with the guns and stuff from the army, and there's one guy setting bombs. And the guy in the power armor, the guy with the bomb, is the only people left in the armory. The guy in the power armor walks forward, walks out the armory, turns around, closes the door, bends the handles around, locks the guy in there with his own explosives. And all the people in the armoured vehicle who've just got this guy back up off the ground are like, what? Again? Another one? So at this point he's like, bazooka, I'm just going to take out that armoured vehicle, you guys are going to want to start running. And like, it got to the point where they're all now, like, all of the people left are now super suspicious of each other, they're all shooting at each other, they're all running, and like, another 2 of them went down, and like 3 of them got away, including the guy in the big heavy armour, and like, at the end of the session, they were, one of the people who died in that little altercation went, so, I was a spy, I know you were a spy, I know you were a spy, was everyone a spy? And everyone sort of went, yeah, yeah, we were all spies.
So yeah, I think that raises a very interesting point. Sometimes when being shady, certainly if you want to play that, if you want to be that player who is doing the espionage, doing that, sometimes less really is more.
Yeah. And also having the reputation, I mean, I realise this might stray a little bit away from role-playing specifically, but a similar thing of if people get used to the idea that you're not the person who does the sneaky stuff.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of a game of, what the hell was it called? Where you have the imposter. Quiplash game.
Oh, Faking It. It's
a game called Faking It. Where
Jackbox party games.
It's one of those games where you have your phone, and at the beginning of each round, during each sort of game, there's one person who is the faker. And at the beginning of each round, everyone gets a question or a prompt or something on their phone, except the faker who doesn't get it. And the idea is that it means things like, hand if you've ever done blah. And everyone who has will raise their hand. And the faker has to work out whether or not they want to raise their hand, and basically if someone goes, raise your hand if you have brown hair, and you're like, and as the faker, and then people are like,
no, you don't.
You're a redhead.
Yeah.
Or it can be something, as it happened to me, was, raise your hand if you've been a bully. And I was just like, I was a faker. And I was like, and because apparently I have a reputation for honesty and good and being truthful, and people went, oh wow, I mean, no, I can see that, but he must feel bad about it. They assumed that I just like, okay, yeah, no, that was me, I was a bad person, and immediately I was out of suspicion. I didn't have to do anything for the rest of the entire game because people just went, okay, we discounted him. So having that reputation for being the honest person.
Conversely, having the reputation as being that player who always does the shady bullshit.
If you have a moustache to twirl,
and then you run a character who doesn't have
completely straight
any of that. Like, I'm reminded of our friend Oz in the Pathfinder game, because like I've played with this guy before. He always has, like, his characters have always got something going on. Like he's run a character who is actually secretly a different character wearing this character's skin, or he's constantly up to something. So when he ran a character who was just genuinely a nice dude who wanted to help, we were all like, suspicious.
Yeah. It's actually, I call that one werewolf syndrome, actually. You played
Yeah,
Are You a
yeah.
Werewolf, right? I'm guessing that the two of you get killed on first rounds fairly frequently.
I think,
Oh, yeah.
I think I played this one quite a lot like Connor, and we immediately advocate the killing of each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first time we got it, the first round, we turned to that at the same time and said, "Kill him."
Yeah.
The thing is, if you haven't played Werewolf, the idea is that the first round is you basically trying to pick a werewolf from people who are all swearing blind they're not werewolves. So people, and there's no previous voting to work on,
Which means
There's nothing
you've
like that.
only
So you
really
just
got
go
natural prejudice.
Yeah, you got natural prejudice, which means anyone with long hair or a beard is instantly a werewolf.
Yeah.
Horrible time being had.
And also,
Yeah.
you've got some pretty good facial hair yourself there. So people, because people have that thing where they will instinctively expect secrets from some people.
Mm-hmm.
You end up with hilarity when it's not actually the person you least expect.
I'm reminded of the guy who basically was every single round he just opened with "I'm the werewolf, kill me," and he never got in, and it never worked until finally we were like, right, he's got to be telling us the truth at some point. So he went, "I'm the werewolf, kill me." So we did. We're like, fine, we'll kill you, Tanner.
For the reference, if the villagers kill all the werewolves, villagers win. If the werewolves outnumber the villagers at any point, they win. If the Tanner dies, he wins.
If the Tanner is hanged, he wins.
If the Tanner is hanged by the village, he wins. For reasons. Apparently being a Tanner is an awful job, and the only way out is the sweet embrace of death.
Well, I suppose if you're working with P all the time, it's not going to be brilliant.
Reminds me of working in retail.
Yeah. I imagine the Tanner was just too peed off with life.
Oh, come on!
So, to surmise, if you're going to be the sort of player with the secret, then really pick your moment. Pick a moment where you think you'll not be suspected. Sometimes less is more, but remember to let the GM know that something is going on so they can commit to it.
Especially because it means you can avoid the saga of Old Man Henderson.
Oh, God.
So, again,
If
we
you
go
take
back to-
nothing else from this podcast, don't be like Old Man Henderson.
I'm gonna need more jelly babies.
Okay, so the character of Old Man Henderson was a Call of Cthulhu character, and the player who created him deliberately made a backstory that was 40-odd pages long, or however long it was. Huge backstory, here's a novel. Safe in the knowledge the GM was never going to read it. And therefore, he could justify anything, because of course I know how to do that. It's in my backstory.
I can speak fluent Portuguese, don't worry about it.
What do you mean? I know 3 people at this university. Did you not read my backstory? And yeah, share information that the GM needs, because that way they can include stuff, but also don't be that guy who's like, here is a bunch of information. I'm going to reference some of it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, and what would you reckon the best way to work with the GM is in terms of making sure that your secret reveal happens at the right time and the payoff is worth it and you don't get accidentally
I
revealed?
think a certain amount of it is accepting that you might be accidentally revealed. For example, if the other players are clever and find you out, then you're kind of stuffed and you've got to deal with that. But also I think you ask the GM, here's how I'd like this secret to be resolved. Here's how I'd like it to turn out. If you have no intention of the secret being revealed, then why is it even there? And if you come up with the cool secret, you have to have some sort of idea of how you want it to come out. Mm-hmm. Again, in the Deathwatch game, we had someone who was secretly an Alpha Legionnaire. They wanted this to come out when, at the point of being under attack, the Watch Fortress was under attack, there was one gunship that left through the launch bay and was never seen again. He wanted that to be him.
Okay.
Which means the GM could say, alright, how is this Watch Fortress going to be attacked? How is everyone going to be a blind panic? He picked Necrons. So in the end, it was a case of, all right, let's get the party together. Where is everyone? Oh, we'll find him. And then off inside, there was they had a separate section on the Discord call where they'd sort of go for about 30 seconds to a minute. That's where they'd resolve their thing. Mm-hmm. And then just sort of keep scanning. And they could still talk to him, which means, yeah, I'm on my way to you. I move forward in the corridor. You come across Necrons. Then there's a thing there. But all the while, he was going somewhere completely different. And the GM was able to manage it in because here's how I want my secret to be revealed.
Presumably that would also be a character generation thing. If you're setting up your backstory with some sort of secret in it, you would start as, okay, here's my character, here's a bit that I don't want anyone else to see.
Yeah, I mean, certainly what I've tried to start doing is saying, if you give me a backstory, give me the bits you don't want people to know or you want me to read specifically, put it in red.
Yeah.
Then I'll read that more thoroughly and think, because it'll be fairly obvious what it is they don't want people to know. If it's, I like big shoes, then that's not going to be in red.
Yeah.
Because what can I do with that?
Unless they've got really small feet. I'm thinking the episode of The Simpsons now where it's Sideshow Bob and everyone thinks it's crusty because of the big shoes thing. But then it's... That's probably not going to be a secret unless your character is actually Sideshow Bob.
Don't play Sideshow Bob.
Actually thinking about it. No.
No,
Okay.
no,
Getting
we're not
distracted,
doing this.
tangent sort of thing. I think that's the thing, though. I kind of like the idea of not only writing it in red, or possibly writing it just on a different piece of paper,
Yeah.
hand it to the GM. It's like, here is my backstory,
Yeah.
here is the other backstories.
I'm mostly working Word documents, so
That's
it's
fair. Oh, of course, yeah. Then the other players
which
can't
means
see it
it's-
anyway.
You see, for me, it's another point in favour of the session zero. Like, you have a one-on-one sit down with each individual player, and you go, okay, let's talk about your character. Let's talk about how they fit into the world. Let's talk about what they've got going on in their backstory. Let's talk about all of that. Then we'll get you to a point where you can be in the main campaign and meet up with the rest of the players.
Here is character generation. Here is your little bit of roleplay just for you. So we work out how you can work out the mechanics and then work out who you are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of nice actually. I like
yeah.
that.
I'm planning on doing a similar thing on Wednesday about how everyone's getting to the carnival.
No, but you talk like that's a thing you've never done before. We've literally done that, me
Yeah, I
and you,
know.
in the game we're playing.
I also, yeah, but no, I'm not going to go into things that I want to steal from your role-playing games because we'd be here for ages.
Oh, I'm so good, apparently.
We are
You
assured.
made a radio station.
I did
It
make
just
a radio
ruined role-playing
station.
forever.
I'm
Forever.
yeah.
I will talk about this some other time because it has ruined role-playing forever. Okay, I think now'd be a good time to wrap that one up. We're in danger of getting off on a massive tangent, and Lord knows we never do that.
So, speaking of asking your GM about secrets, let's ask a GM.
Okay, that was unexpected. Not sure what happened there. Okay, so
I am apparently a ghost.
is this another joke about white balance?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, I'm hoping you have some questions.
So one of the big questions I got asked this week was, as a player, how can I work with my GM to keep my secrets from being accidentally revealed and make their actual reveal exciting and worth the wait? Which you appear to have done part of my job for me.
We kind of did the thing.
Which is fine. I have more questions. I mean, I liked a lot of the stuff you covered about that. I think in the age of technology as well, the technology that does help out with that.
Mm-hmm.
You can be surreptitiously texting under the table
I have actually done that.
to your GM, sending them secret messages, and I feel that's almost less disruptive to the game than the hat passing.
Yeah.
There is still obviously you talked about your whole like signaling thing.
Yeah.
And you want the players to be aware of something, but that is less disruptive to the game rather than having the GM.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of GMs, and me especially, we have laptops there for various use within games.
Yeah.
And it can just look like the GM
Isn't
paying attention or
Yeah.
just looking something up on their laptop.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a very good thing. But let's go find the rest of our questions. Here we are. So, when building a homebrew world for a campaign, should I build a world around a campaign concept? Or should I build a world and see what comes out of it? Well, I've kind of done both.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think it depends on what inspires you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a concept that really inspires you, like I wanted to do magical steampunk,
Okay.
so I built a campaign world based around magical steampunk.
Okay, and then did you just wait and see what happened in terms of campaign art out of
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can build a world, and then something you've built in your world inspires you to run a campaign.
That's fair.
I don't think there's any right answer there. It's what inspires you as a GM.
I will admit that as someone who I tend to, I'm trying to find a better way of saying it than I don't like planning things. As someone who likes freeform roleplay, I think that sounds good. I will admit I have had things where, like, I've had a story I want to tell, and I'll let the players go through it however they want to. But I've always come up with what I want to do first and worked out where it happens later.
Yeah.
So, like, I ran a Dark Heresy campaign where the whole point of the plot is there is an Imperial Saint manifesting somewhere on this planet.
Yeah.
Go find them.
Yeah.
And then at some point during the story, the Saint is going to get shot in the head and lose their memory because it could happen.
Yeah.
And the players are going to have to try and work out what the Saint needs to be in order to become themselves again, or
Yeah.
whether they can guide them in a different direction. How basically give the players choices on that and just not define what that is.
Yeah.
But I started out with the story I wanted
Yeah.
and then built the world around it.
Yeah, that's an example.
So it works out
Whereas
okay.
I am working on basically a continuous world project that kind of came out of that magical steampunk world. Is I'm building a world where that setting exists. And I'm now running a game in a different part of that world, whereas I came up with that bit of the world first, and then the campaign came out of it as a thing I wanted to do.
So basically the answer is it depends, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah, what inspires you
Yeah.
to run a game? If you want to run, if you want to run a story, or if you have a world, then that's
Yeah.
what I think would be best.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, there's also a certain amount to be said for whether you build top-down or bottom-up from the world,
Yeah.
but that's a whole separate issue.
Yeah. Next we have D&D 3.5, 4th or 5th. What are the strengths and weaknesses? What are the strengths and weaknesses of each? And on balance, which is best?
Okay, this is where I'm going to make no friends at all, but I'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
For me, 3.5, the strength is a lot of it.
There is a lot of 3.5, and there is all the Pathfinder material on top, which is technically compatible.
works. The problem with that is that there's a lot
Lot
of
of
it,
yeah,
and a lot of it is awful.
and a lot of it is horrendously broken. Yeah,
In fact, if you ever play a straight fighter in 3.5, just a straight fighter, it kind of feels like you're wasting your character and you should have played someone from the Book of Nine Swords who do everything that fighters do, but better.
yeah,
Which is part of the problem. Like that is one of the problems that 3.5 suffered from. It suffered from power creep.
yeah,
And that's always going to be a thing when you want to make more splat books, you want to make more exciting stuff, you want to make explorers, you want to make it worthwhile to invest in the new books. So there's going to be the power creep that definitely happened in 3.5.
yeah. And but it does have the advantage that you can play pretty much anything. If you want to play a awakened badger who is a cook by night and a Batman-style vigilante by day, there will... look, it's the opposite way around, but there will be somewhere you can play that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, there's even a Kingmaker campaign I heard about recently where all the protagonists, all the player characters were awakened animals. And
Yeah.
apparently it's going really well, despite the fact that
Yeah.
at least one player is a badger or something.
So yeah, the advantages are a lot of stuff. The disadvantages are a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
4th is interesting.
Okay,
It
so...
splits opinions, doesn't it? It is.
The thing is, 4th edition for me, the thing about 4th edition is that it's not the same. It's basically, a lot of 4th edition feels like it's made too simplified, to pare down. And it's basically like someone looked at 3.5 and the stack, I mean, I know a guy who has a stack of 3.5 books this high off the table, and went, okay, how can we make this less, oh my god, I'm drowning in numbers? Which is why they gave you things like the daily powers, the encounter powers, and the at-will powers, which obviously you can use them different amounts per day in-game, and that's fine. But it meant that a lot of people went, oh, it's a war game, oh, you can't do anything, oh, the multiple skills rolls that you have to do are really bad, and I can't swing off a chandelier anymore, and all I can think to that is, yes, you can.
You can.
But it's not intrinsic to the mechanics, it's not like there is a swinging off a chandelier roll. There's skill checks, and you can do acrobatics and so on and so forth. And I will not lie, the only full campaign of 4th I've ever played, I loved it for the story and the world as much as the mechanics. Yes, the fact that we had one fight where we spent the entirety of the fight, one of the players went, there's a 3x3 square thing there of teeth and darkness and pain, and anything that starts its turn in there or goes in there takes this much damage. And we just spent the entirety of the combat going, book, knocking our enemy back into it.
I kind of like the keywordedness of it all. I kind of like the fact that a blast power is always a blast power.
Yeah.
It's you know, if it is a blast 3, which means it does a 3x3 area.
Yeah.
And any other blast power will be a variant on that.
Yeah.
So you don't need to know intrinsically what every spell does, because they are keyworded in a way.
Things like the burst power, which for me, the way I always remember the difference between blast and burst is that they're all about how many radiuses a square goes out, but the burst has you in the middle.
Yeah. And I quite like that in a sort of making things less taxing on knowing people, because who knows how a fireball is 20-foot radius, whereas an ice storm might be 30-foot radius, and you would technically have to individually remember that. But if it's a blast 3 and a blast 5, you know that it is a blast and it has a square of
Yeah. The thing is, a lot of people didn't like 4th edition, and I don't agree. I like 4th edition quite a lot. It's good for beginners. It's good for getting people into role-playing at all, which, maybe they won't stay with it. Maybe, hell, they could end up going, I want to be, edgy and play, Vampire the Masquerade, or Vampire whatever, that Requiem is it now?
Yeah.
Sorry, it was Masquerade when I started playing. And that's fine, but give them something to get into that isn't horrible.
I did also kind of like the Paragon Path and Epic Path, or whatever it was called.
Epic Destiny, I think it was.
Epic Destiny, yeah. I kind of like that as a way of further defining your character.
For the record, when you get to a certain level in these games, you get to choose how your character is going to diverge. And basically it'll give you a thematic thing that your character does well.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the next step, you can then diverge further, which gives you a certain amount of character customization just in choice of going, I'm going to be a paladin. I'm going to be this kind of paladin. I'm going to be a healing paladin, or I'm going to be a hitting things with a stick paladin, or I'm going to be a taking all the damage and never dying paladin. And then you can branch out further from there. And I like it too. It's really nice.
Yeah,
the thematics
I can see what people say about it being a war game simulator.
Yeah,
because it does require a battle map pretty much to play. And I know a lot of people are now moving towards the more narrative games where you don't need battle map things.
The thing is, that feels like a general trend in role-playing.
Yeah.
That feels like a thing that what goes around will come around in 10 years' time anyway.
Which is bringing us on, nicely, to D&D 5th. Which is... I kind of like it. As someone whose main game is Pathfinder, and thus 3.5 and all the guff that comes along with that, I like how it simplified a lot of the mechanics.
Yeah.
It kind of combined a bit what I like about 3.5 and what I liked about 4th, and kind of got rid of some of the off bits. You don't get the standard +2, -2, +2, -2 sort of affair, where, if you got an advantage, you get +2, if you get a disadvantage, you get -2. It just combined it all into the disadvantage-advantage mechanic.
Yeah.
Which feels quite nice, I think.
Yeah.
Rolling 2 dice is a noticeable bonus.
Yeah, especially it's roll 2 dice and pick the better if you have advantage.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, you're going to end up with a slightly higher number on average, which is great. Everyone loves that.
And the disadvantage is the opposite. You pick the lowest.
Which makes sense, because if you're outnumbered, you're going to suffer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, right now, I don't feel it has a lot of things. 3.5 and Pathfinder, they have so much material, and you can play so many things. There has been very little official come out for D&D 5th. There's the Unearthed Arcanas online, but they're technically playtest material, and then there's been the Sword Coast Adventures Guide and Volo's Guide to Monsters, as far as I'm aware. I may be wrong on that account, but
also they may have bought something out between recording and production.
Oh, exactly, yeah, and they're the only ones with new character options.
The thing is, that feels like basically they just haven't made the splat books yet, and they are planning on doing so.
But it has the system has been out for a while now, and you would expect it to have more than 2. They have been focusing a lot on the sort of the pre-made campaigns, almost. I feel.
Okay.
Because
I know did they take a thing out of Pathfinder's book, where Pathfinder, as the people who make Pathfinder, have conventions, and you can be part of a grand narrative thing that there's, I think, or at least that was the way
they have the Pathfinder Society, but they do have the Adventurers League for D&D. I don't know exactly how that works. I've not really looked into it, but I think they have, and I think they've basically had each of the campaigns be an individual thing.
Okay.
And they kind of focused on that. But if you don't want to play in a specific campaign like that, like a pre-written campaign, then there seems to be very little material about.
Okay.
Other than stuff people have homebrewed themselves, and obviously...
Which is what most GMs will end up doing.
Yeah, but, and there's always the issue with homebrew and balance and things like that. Yeah. But I do like 5th. It seems to have gone back towards the classic roots of D&D, as well as going towards the more simplified roots, which is why I think it's brought a lot of new people into the hobby. I know when we were signing people up for Nonsuck this year, we had a lot of new people interested in D&D, and I think that's brilliant. Mm-hmm. I think it's wonderful to get new people in, and I think the simplicity of D&D 5th in general has a lot to say for that.
Hey, it's all good. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully they'll be able to release some more content. But at this point, I'm kind of glad that they've got a core that is good and doesn't end up with the problem that you have with 3.5, which is that there are some classes that are just flat not as good.
Yeah. I think the whole bounded accuracy helps with that a lot. D&D, they specified basically that you're only allowed numbers between this range and this range. And I think it's something like the DCs for difficulty classes for checks.
So basically the number you're aiming for.
Will always be a certain point. So an impossible task is always DC 30.
Okay.
So like hitting a deity is going to be DC 30. A mundane task, which is like, I don't know...
Walking down the street.
is always DC 10.
Okay.
So...
And it is therefore assumed you can just do the thing.
And I think somebody's worked out the maximum to hit you can have as a fighter is plus 19.
Okay.
Or plus 11, sorry.
So that's the number you're adding onto your dice roll when you're trying to hit
So you can only hit a deity on...
an 11 or more.
Basically. At like 20th level. So there you go.
So when you're massively, massively powerful, you're still just under half chance to hit a god.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of works.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're saying 5th edition, pretty good system, not enough of it.
Yeah.
I prefer 4th edition, I'm not going to lie.
Next we have the differences between playing rules heavy and rules light games. Yeah.
We're going to be here for hours.
Yeah. I haven't played a lot of rules light games, I'm not going to lie. I will admit that I am a power gamer. And thus I like numbers.
You're not massaging the numbers until they result in death.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I haven't played a lot of rules light games.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in here then, because the game I ran last year was incredibly rules light.
Your madness game. Mad thing you were doing with war games.
Yeah, that we didn't end up doing much with the wargamers in the end, which is a bit of a shame. But for context, the game was high power politics. So the players weren't meant to do any exploring, killing, looting, whatever themselves. They had people for that. They had, why have retainers and go and murder the man yourself? So the idea was that one person was the head of the Imperial Guard, one of them was the head of the church, one of them was the head of something else, and they were all powerful people. So the only mechanic I had was here are your tokens for the week. This is the amount of resources that your people have been able to accrue for you this week. Where do you want to spend them? And as a result, I ended up with someone putting the equivalent of enough money to outfit an entire regiment of troops with serious weaponry. They went and they commissioned an artist to go and do a painting because they wanted to basically make good with a noble, because that would give them an into some politics and political capital later. And because the rules were light enough that I could just roll with that, they ended up making, and basically they commissioned a Da Vinci.
Yeah.
And the nobles loved them for it, which then came back and fed into stuff that happened later. But it was all about the story and the fact that there were rules. There was whatever. I don't really care.
So, by the sound of things, rules light games tend to be more player driven.
Yeah.
They tend to be more you are reacting to what the players do, and the players drive the plot. Whereas I feel with more rules heavy games, you can in a way force the players down a certain path. I'm not sure if that was what you're getting at.
It's not what I was getting at. I was basically sort of citing like the way that I tend to run rules like games. It tends to be let the players do what they want, and of course stuff will happen as a consequence. If you go and poke the bear will kill you. But let the players go and poke the bear, and then have some vague rules for bear death.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I like, partly because, as I previously mentioned, planning is a thing that I will do if I have to. The more I can give the players to come up with stuff, and that I can just go, okay, that's here is a reaction to what you're doing, the more I can get them invested in the world, and the more I can make them feel like it's not my world, it's the one that they are building. And of course, because I had a map for the world, whenever they wanted to define a thing, I would just add it to the map.
Yeah.
In the same way that if you ever played any of the old Discworld point-and-click adventures?
No.
Okay.
I missed them.
The idea was that you'd have a map of, say, Ankh-Morpork.
Yeah.
And when you unlocked a new location, it would appear on the map,
Yeah.
but only once you'd unlocked it. So once the players are like, I want to invest money in this cathedral over here.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there's a cathedral there. Is there? Okay, plop, put it on the
Yeah.
map. And now you can spend resources and it becomes part of the story, but it means that the players get more investment in what they're doing, rather than just going, I roll dice and kill a guy.
Yes. Whereas my planning for games, I tend to sort of focus on arcs. So it's kind of like an act almost, in that you define what the players are going to be doing for the next few sessions.
Yeah.
So for the next few sessions, they might be exploring this dungeon,
Okay.
and what you might put a few hooks in there
Yeah.
for what comes next, and depending on what they pick up on, will be the next arc that then comes off.
Would you like the idea of the 4th edition Tomb of Horrors? Are you aware of this?
No.
The idea of 4th edition D&D has an adventure called the Tomb of Horrors, which harkens back to an adventure in 2nd edition, which we will get into at some other time, because, oh my god.
They've just released a new version for it for 5th as well.
Because it's the Tomb of Horrors. But the whole idea of Tomb of Horrors is that it's there are various different levels of the Tomb of Horrors. So as a level 2 character, you can go to the Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah.
The original Tomb of Horrors was for level 20s only, and you would probably still die. But the idea is that you go through this bit of the Tomb of Horrors, and then you go off and do adventuring, and then you come back when you're level 6 and you do that bit of the Tomb of Horrors, and then you do level 12, you come back and you do the other bit of the Tomb of Horrors. And the idea would be that you can have this sort of thing that you keep recurring in as okay, the players need a new arc, it's Tomb of Horrors time.
Yeah, that might be something I do. I mean, I try to have at least, when I'm running a campaign, I try to have at least one arc focused on a particular character.
Yeah.
So whatever the player's backstory is, going back to our secrets thing earlier, that arc might focus on the revelation of that secret.
Okay, yeah.
And that would be that character's story playing out. I will do that for each individual character.
Nice.
So, in a previous game, I had a player who was a noble, but they'd been forced to leave their house because their father had married a new stepmother, and the new stepmother had kicked them out of the house, basically. So that player's arc was them going back to that house and finding out that player's mother was actually a fairy from beyond who had enchanted his father.
Okay.
And was trying to create a foothold in
And had gotten rid of him because he might have been a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that would be that character's arc. So each player gets a little bit of focus time on them, and it occupies them for a little while. and that's generally what I tend to do. My systems are obviously very rules heavy, so it's quite so I find that's quite an involved process. I do have to stat out a lot of things.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously, if with a rules light system,
Yeah.
you might not necessarily have to
Generally speaking,
stat out that many things.
I think it depends on what system you're using. I mean, the system I used was deliberately, I don't have to stat up anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have a thing where if you want to overcome the there was a point where the players decided, okay, that space defense place over there, we need that dead. We need to take that place. Okay, here are the resources. We'll put this and that. And can you put some in for the? Yeah, okay, we'll get everyone collaborating on this one. And I basically looked at it and went, that is sufficient.
Yeah.
And much in the way that if you ever play the Marvel Universe role-playing game with the energy stones in it, which is entirely how the mechanic of that works, is if you put enough energy into it, it works. Be that I use Cyclops' eye beams. Pew! The thing, that wasn't enough energy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But just sort of giving having the rules there to say, this was enough, this was not enough. But the fact that it was rules light meant that I could be very adaptive and I could sort of fudge things here and there. If it felt appropriate to the narrative, I could just fudge it.
Whereas I feel like
heavy,
rules heavy are a bit more rigid. You can't necessarily ignore the numbers as much.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the players don't see behind the screen. You could just
fudge a bit. But again, if you're like, wow, I just rolled a 2 and that guy nearly died.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh look, I just rolled a 1. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels a bit weird. But yeah, basically that for me is the difference between like system heavy and system light. System heavy, you end up with more to do, but not necessarily more to do. But you end up with more sort of GM driving rather than the players driving.
Yeah. And our last one, kind of pertinent, is electronic gadgets at the table. Like you can use them to store character sheets. Often people,
Yep.
I often use my tablet, but they can be a distraction.
They can be.
How do you feel about them?
Honestly, I think it depends because, like, especially if you're running a system where, like, if you're running a combat system, especially like something like D&D, let's say, for instance, 2 players get into a fight. The rest of the players are not doing anything for the next 10 minutes because, oh, man, this is going to take like 3 rounds. That's still going to be 10 minutes. So giving them something they can do while you're not talking to them, essentially. Like, if the party's all together, then hopefully people are engaged and they don't need the distraction. But if people, like, you don't want people sitting there just bored, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I can kind of see where you're coming from for that, but at the same time, I have had players at tables who've just sat on their phone, and you kind of have to shout at them 3 times for them to realise it's their turn in combat.
Yeah, that's the thing. If the players are actively involved, it's supposed to be actively involved, then having the distraction is a bad thing. I guess it all comes down to the game, it comes down to the players.
Yeah.
If it's detrimental to the thing, then maybe have a word with the player and say, can you not?
Yeah. It's also, I kind of also feel as a GM, it should be my job to engage the player. So if I'm seeing someone not engaging with my game and engaging with a device instead, I'm either questioning myself as a GM or questioning whether they want to be playing this game at all.
That's the thing. I mean, I think the problem is, like, there's also legitimate reasons why you might be,
I mean,
like, if it's things like just to pull an extreme example out of the air, a family member's just gone into hospital. They're probably fine, but I'm going to keep an eye on this one for now.
I think
that's one thing. But if it's regular and they're just like,
if it's just playing a Facebook game like Candy Crush or whatever, then I can.
Then maybe there's something to be addressed.
I think I'm probably going to sound like a broken record throughout the course of these GM questions, but always talk to your players. Talk to them like adults. Don't lash out like a child. Just say, look, you're clearly not paying attention. Is there anything?
Is there something wrong here?
Is there something wrong? I think, if it's becoming an issue, talk to them like an adult.
Yeah, to be fair, though, that's generally good advice anyway. If something's not working, try and work out why.
A reasonable adult, not like a grown man child who screams at someone when they've not got the right bagel or whatever.
That's also the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, but again, this comes down to, like, knowing your players. If the player is the kind of person who isn't involved, who does that. Also, a side note, I also know someone who, while it might look like they're very distracted because they are obsessed with the games console or something or other, they are listening. It's just that they need to have a thing to focus on that isn't you.
But again, I think that's something you kind of need to warn the GM about or talk to the GM about, so they're aware that is a health issue rather than a being ignorant issue.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it all comes back to communication.
Yeah, talk to people, talk to them.
Yeah,
I know some of them are a bit weird, Connor. But in general, if you're having an issue, talk to someone.
Yeah. The thing is, like, devices can be good, devices can be bad. It depends. This is, again, we're going to keep coming back to this word. It depends. It depends.
Yeah. I think that's everything for GM questions today. So thank you for having me.
It's been good.
Send in your new questions to nodsock@sheffield.ac.uk. If it should be appearing on the screen if Richard remembers to do his job.
Like, maybe either down here or maybe, like, up here somewhere. Or
there, or maybe floating around as like a bee.
Wow, that would be weird.
That would be weird.
Just imagine, like...
Yeah.
Anyway, oh my god, that just makes me think of old screensavers. Wow. I feel so old now.
Pipes.
Yeah. Oh, that was so good. Anyway, before we get even more distracted, let's go. See you next time.
Those were some GM questions.
Man, do you want some ham for that cheese?
Or cheese for
Because I can do ham!
Please don't.
You can never escape us, Nova. We're here now.
Can we just go back to GM questions? Is that a thing we can do? Like, just GM questions, you know, you and me, GM questions, 10 years, GM questions, Szechuan sauce? I don't know. So...
We've already established Rick and Morty thing.
Yeah, I know. But I tried to try something. I'm trying to be hip, you know? I'm trying to be down with the kids, you know?
Stop it.
Okay.
No, you're like a million years old, don't do this.
I'm not a million years old. I'm 500,000 years old. Thank you very much. Okay, so just to sort of bring things back, you guys were sort of around for the GM questions. Do you have a preference for the D&D versions?
As a GM, and I have only really GM'd D&D, I adore 5th. I think it's brilliant. Just give me more stuff for 5th and I will run with it.
I know there's a lot of homebrew stuff out there for 5th.
Yeah, I mean...
but as far as like core stuff goes, there's not a great amount of
D&D Wiki itself is a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yes,
Don't go there.
Yes, it is.
However, having introduced an 8-strong group new to role-playing games to D&D, 5th was a godsend. I didn't know much about 4th except I'd heard 2 people shitting on it, and 3.5 looked like a mess, so I picked up 5th and ran with it. They had an excellent time.
5th is usually my Roll20 group's go-to RPG when we just want something simple, because like you pick a class and your stat block is already basically determined for you. The only thing you really have to decide on is your character and your flavour.
But stuff that makes the game
simple.
interesting and not numbers.
Yeah, if you want extra stuff that you can write into the rules to make make your like the mechanics of your character more relevant to your character. There's stuff like the home brewery, which I found is really
DM's
good.
Guild has got some good stuff there.
My preference, purely because it's of how similar it is to Pathfinder, it's probably 3.5. 5th, the close second.
Okay.
Wonderful. We've got all 3 D&Ds represented in ascending order.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, it was probably going to be that way. It was either going to be that way or that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that'll do for now.
Have we got time to talk about Big Bang Theory?
Unfortunately not.
No, I
I'm
don't
actually
think so.
really hungry. I need to go eat something. I haven't eaten for the last 7 hours.
Damn, son.
I'm really hungry. I want to go.
All right, well, I guess we'll wrap the podcast up then.
Yeah.
All right, we will see you next time, and maybe we'll get onto Big Bang stuff next time, but sorry.
Thanks for watching.
I have to go. Bye.
Bye.